And we are live. We're back, people. And the news has finally come out. I was just going to talk about the training camp's third day, all the positives we've seen from the offense, and we'll get to that. But Tua Tagovailoa was just paid to a 4-year, $212.4 million contract extension, which puts him at about $53.1 million per year, which I think makes him the third highest paid quarterback. And he has $167 million guaranteed, which is the 8th highest in the NFL, which is, I'm not going to overreact to the deal in either direction, really wait for the details to come out. But at first glance, seems like it definitely could have been more. So I'm happy this got done. It looks like all the signs were kind of pointing at getting done today, like with the sources, people tweeting out about it. And then just the fact that Tua practiced in full today after not practicing at all yesterday definitely showed that there was some trust happening there. Definitely glad the deal got done. Really want to wait for the details to come out, see how it's structured, where their potential is, for more, how it's also is it built into what he's gotten now, clean slate type of thing, or, is there void years put on it at all too? That's always an interesting thing. They also went for the 4-year, a lot of people went it's usually a lot of 5-year contract extensions, but they went with the 4-year, which is interesting. But yeah, Tua got paid. Happy it's done. Happy we can kind of move on. I wonder what that kind of means for the cap space this year. I wonder how much, if there was any created, or does they put things maybe more on the front end. But definitely interesting. Happy to see it get done. Let me just make sure I'm live, because I don't want to be talking to nobody. Boom. Oh my god. Finally, man. It's finally happened, guys. And interesting, hold on. Here we go. My god, I was unlisted, okay. Okay, so now we should be public. I just realized I had the live stream unlisted, so I was talking to myself there for about a minute, which is great. Now I just look like a fool. But yeah, as I was saying, now that we're live, hopefully people can start rolling in here. Was just going to talk about training camp day 3, but Tua Tagovailoa has gotten paid. He got his 4-year, $212.4 million contract extension, which comes out to $53.1 million per year, which puts him at third highest paid. Guaranteed, I believe, was 167-ish. So him getting 167 million guaranteed, which I think puts him at the 8th highest guaranteed. It was a 4-year contract extension too. I think on paper, just first glance, looks pretty solid. We know people expected it to be even crazier. But I do want to wait for the details to come out, how it's all structured. I think that's what really matters there. Because I know the guarantees also matter. I'm pretty sure I think Lawrence got 200 million guaranteed, but his was a 5-year thing, so it's definitely very, very intriguing. Definitely glad that it got done. Kind of just looking up all the information. I'm so happy you got paid. How are you? Let's go, baby. I know. Awesome, guys. It got done. Dude, I was streaming unlisted for a minute, so nobody saw that I was live, and then I realized oh, I gotta go public. I'm there's 0 people in here. Fins up, congrats to it. Yep, I was about to just go live and talk about the training camp, and then the contract extension happened. I'm well, I'll go live a few minutes earlier than expected. But yeah, we can talk about the training camp today, because the signs were kind of pointing to Tua getting contract extension, with that Ricky Twitter account was tweeting about it was either gonna be Jordan Love or Tua getting a contract extension, and other people were kind of hinting at things. But then Tua practicing today is what really sold me on it being Tua, because he went from not doing only doing 7-on-7 work in the first day to not practicing at all to then doing everything on the third day. It just, to me, that signs point to that he was going to get paid, and he did. So really excited for Tua specifically. The deal, want to see how it's structured, but overall, I think first glance doesn't look too bad. Good for him, good for the team type of thing. I'm also curious to see what if it does anything for the cap space this season, because depending on how it's structured, it could have created more cap even this year, or could have not changed at all if it was just pure extension on the back end. But yeah, definitely some exciting things. And I think that's all the numbers we've seen so far. Is just the 4 years, 212 million with the 167 million guaranteed. And yeah. And honestly, usually when a QB gets extended, that's like kind of near, like he doesn't even have to be like the best QB. Like even guys who are usually around like the top 10 range, just with how the salary cap increases, they usually just end up being the next highest paid. Like Lawrence just became like the highest paid, tied with Burrow. But then Tua still got less. And honestly, I'm pretty sure Love's going to get paid here pretty soon. I'm imagining it's going to be pretty closest to Tua and possibly even more. So I'm glad they just got it done out of the way with people trying to get, more of these contract extensions done, because it would have just kept going up and up. And realistically, even if you're not the biggest fan of Tua, like this is a win now period. The Dolphins are in their window, and Tua definitely gives them their best chance. There's not any sign of upgrades really all around. So to me, this was the smartest move, regardless of your feelings of Tua, which I obviously am very high on him compared to most people. But yeah, definitely some good news. And we can talk also about some training camp practice today, because it was definitely the best offensive day too, and Tua got to do some 11-on-11 stuff. And from everything that was reported, it looked like the team performed much better offensively with Tua playing in the 11-on-11 drills. Yeah, and then like comparing it to Lawrence deal, because Lawrence got a 5-year 275 with 200 million, and then Tua got 4 years 212 with 167 million. So I think overall you probably feel pretty good about this. I'm excited to see. I mean, I haven't gone on I've only seen like a little bit on Twitter so far, but I'm imagining it's going to be pretty mixed reactions, how it usually is with Tua, like people having like strong opinions. But yeah. As I said, like some people say, like I think CK Chris Kaufman brings up a good point that like just doing it like 4 years divided by the guarantee isn't really the way to go. It just more implies that like the Dolphins are committed to Tua for the next 3 years, because like if 167 million of the 212 is guaranteed, that's basically 3 of the 4 years where he's going to be your quarterback. So this is like, I think you're in a 3-year window, so it makes sense anyways. And then obviously he has those 3 years to really improve and take his game to the next level. And if he doesn't, then they could potentially move on. But Tua is your quarterback at least for the next 3 years, at least. Which, I mean, clearly this offense was built for him. Finally, let's get to work. Yep, definitely glad that it got done when, because it was constantly being talked about. I don't think it needed to be. Now we can, move on to the next. I think after we already got Waddle done, Tua. After those guys, we're kind of onto the. I'm sorry, I was reading a chat, but no, we're moving on to like the Holland and Phillips discussion. So that's like kind of where we're next with contract extensions. Yeah. Agree or disagree on the price? I'm glad they got a deal done. Let's go and fins up. Yeah. But yeah. Reading some of the things. This is from Wingfield. This is just from like the practice today. He said practice 3 is over. Fans and offense will be excited. Tua made a ton of wow throws, including a 70-yard touchdown to Tyreek. Pretty sure that was on like the first play. He got Ramsey to bite on the play action fake motion stuff. And then Tyreek also had another score on like a 20 to 25-yard throw. Looks like Achane had another big play too. The offense looked well. Craycraft had a 60-yard touchdown from Tua and also had a long touchdown from Skyler. Nice to see, Craycraft sticking around, because I mean, even if Craycraft doesn't make the team, he would be the receiver that sticks around the practice squad and would still definitely end up on the main roster at some point. Like, so I feel confident that Craycraft is going to be around. Nice to hear good things about him too. And then we'll get back to some of the other specifics, because like Wingfield talks about a lot of this stuff, and we'll definitely dig into that too. But just wanted to see if there's anything more on the Tua situation, because. Yeah, he's technically, on a per-year basis, he's technically the 3rd highest paid, because Burrow and Lawrence are both at $55 million above him, which I think getting him for less than Lawrence is a good sign. And then, and you got to think, with Burrow at 55, he got paid like a while ago. Like when you compare it like salary cap wise, like what they're taking up space, it's another good deal. He's only getting paid $0.1 million more than Goff, so he's basically on the same level as Goff. Yeah. Do we know what the yearly numbers are? No, that's what I'm waiting for. That's like the big thing. I think how it's structured is big, so you can like look at like the pure base numbers, like when you just look at it 4-year 212, are usually for pretty much every contract kind of misleading. I feel like people overreact in kind of every direction. You got to see the guaranteed, obviously, which we do see the guaranteed, but then also how it's structured year to year. And when you can kind of also, you also have to imagine a lot of these QB deals do get restructured down the line. They usually never play out the whole time. So this just means like at worst Tua is playing 3 of the 4 years, but then probably would get restructured, money moved around, you know. There's a lot of different things you can do with the salary cap space, so it's nothing that I'm like too concerned about. Yeah. Aircraft is legit, man. I agree. I think we overpaid just a little bit. You know, I'm waiting for like the real numbers to come out before to really judge it. But like when you really think like salary, like when you look at it just like the base, I can see people being like, "Oh, he's the 3rd highest paid. He shouldn't be." But like, I feel like it's a little disingenuous way to look at it because of how much the salary cap percentage raises each year. Feels like a pretty decent deal to get done at this point because in a year he's not going to be anywhere close to a 3rd highest paid quarterback. He'll probably bump all the way down to like 10 with all the extensions that get done. Yeah, definitely needed to get hit because I like that they got this done at the start of training camp because clearly the offense just was like, I'm sure McDaniel was just like after he sat out practice for a day and the offense really struggled. And he also didn't do 11-on-11 stuff the first day. I'm sure McDaniel was finally just like, let's just get this deal done, man. Like we need him out there practicing, getting these first team reps, everyone working together because the offense is so like very timing based, so it takes a lot of practice, getting everything down to like the minute details. So getting the deal done is nice because now he'll be out there, and then clearly he was practicing today. They knew the deal was going to get done, so that's really nice. But I'm sure we'll see what the real deal is coming up in the coming days. But just waiting to see how it's structured and like the terms and like signing bonuses and stuff. Okay. And yeah, then the Tua practice today obviously threw a couple of long bombs. Everyone said he had some wow performances. Apparently Malik Washington had his best day. Apparently a lot of the rookies had some of their best days today. He had made a nice full extended catch from Skylar Thompson, stayed on his feet. His best impressive catch of the day. The run game also produced some explosive runs with Jeff Wilson. Big block from Aaron Brewer. Feels like he had a lot of people to mention today compared to some of the other days. He also had some positives to say about Patrick Paul. He had talked about Patrick Paul a lot. Like he had a big block on the backside of a run, but also like this is what I really want to talk about because Patrick Paul, definitely needed a lot of work coming out of college. So it's nice to see that he's already making some steps up because they thought he looked really patient / comfortable in his pass sets in 1v1. Kamara tried to stab inside and cross over outside. Nobody's quicker with that move, but Paul got to the arc and shut it down. And then Paul was able to redirect, finish him on the turf, showing some impressive patience, punch, and change of direction. And he flashed that stuff on the college film, but it was just super inconsistent. So if he's already doing this stuff at a higher level and being more consistent, that's huge for his game because he obviously has a higher ceiling than what he showed at Houston. He had a good rep against Chop Robinson as well. It looked like Johnny Smith returned to practice and got a lot of praise from a lot of the beat writers. The physicality, the way he runs, people saying he doesn't look like a tight end. Him and Holland have had some fun battles. And then some defense stuff. Jordan Poyer was dominant in 1v1s. He's always been pretty good when he's able to stay over the top, play as like a top-down player. Jordan Brooks had the most impressive cover rep, she said, staying step for step with Achane on an outbreaker. That's pretty big, having some coverage linebackers. Jalen Wright did get Brooks, though, on like a double move, which is cool. We've talked about that in the past with Jalen Wright. Can Jalen Wright be like a route running type? We didn't really get to see that at Tennessee, so that would be interesting. But then he responded with getting a blitz / sack onto it, Blaise Campbell got his first practice sack against Austin Jackson. Chop also got one on Mike White off play action. Cam Brown stacked up a couple of runs late in the team period, which is cool. Nice seeing Cam Brown's being mentioned multiple times. I also heard Quinton Bell has been standing out more and more and more. Kendall Fuller made a lot of nice plays. I've heard positives about Kendall. Apparently Cam Smith, this is the first time I've really seen Cam Smith mentioned, but he made a couple plays staying in phase on a route from Waddle that produced a PBU. He definitely is a good on-ball production guy. Grayson Murphy had a would-be sack working on Keon Smith. Nice dip and rip/corner to the QB. That's, might have been a strip sack with the timing of it. He's an edge name to keep an eye out for this preseason. He was one of my favorite UDFAs. And then, yeah, that was kind of like the main stuff mentioned that I've seen from the beat reporter, specifically Wingfield so far. I wonder if losing that weight will take something off his throwing power. I doubt it. I think the losing weight thing is honestly only a positive. I don't really think he's working on his mechanics, and from what I've heard is that mechanically it would probably just help some of his throwing power because he's getting more torque into his throws with like his hips. It's creating more of like a slingshot effect. So I don't really think losing weight has to do with like throwing power really. I think it will just help him be a little more athletic, which I think was a part of his game that was kind of missing last season. Being a little more agile. I don't need to be like a super athlete out there, but I just need to be able to create a little more out of structure at times, which I think will help out the offense a lot. But yeah, let's go, baby. Tua is finally paid. No excuses this year. Let's win the division. Hopefully, let's win the division. Obviously, there's factors that play into that. It doesn't just come down to Tua, but yeah, we just need to be involved. I want to just come out of this year with a playoff win at least. Definitely need a playoff win. This team needs it bad. Just looking at the history, they're like in the longest drought without a playoff win right now. And then continuing past that, I obviously would love a Super Bowl too. When you expect us to extend Hill, is that this year or next? Ooh, interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens this year. But I also think it would be better to prioritize maybe an extension with Phillips and Holland because they're on because with Hill, it might not even be like an extension. It might just be like a slight pay raise, where he gets paid more like the top receivers because he's already got he still has many years left on his contract. It could just be a completely and total restructure too, but I would rather prioritize Phillips and Holland personally. So my guess it would be probably next season. We're desperate for a division win / playoff win. Yeah, I mean I would prefer the playoff win. Like at the end of the day, division win's great, but if you lose the first round, it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as you make the playoffs and get a playoff win, that's kind of what going for. Division win is also great as well. But playoff win, I think, is where I'm looking for first. But then once you get in the playoffs and get a playoff win, you're just a couple wins away from getting to the Super Bowl. And they have the talent to do it. Obviously, I would say it takes a step up from Tua, but it also takes a step up from the coaching staff and a lot of other players on the roster stepping up in big time games because I feel like a lot of the other guys kind of didn't show up in their biggest moments either. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But yeah, definitely will be fun to just scroll Twitter to see a lot of people's takes because I'm sure people always have their jokes when it comes to Tua. Tua Tagovailoa. I'm reading Cameron Wolf's tweet. Tua Tagovailoa's story is one for the movies. Overcame career-threatening college hip injury, early NFL struggles, and multiple scary concussions to become an MVP candidate and one of NFL's highest-paid QBs. Now sets firmly up for NFL. Yeah, I mean that is true. Tua's definitely faced a ton of adversity. You got to give him credit for that. At least if even the people that aren't his biggest fans, I feel like got to give him some credit for really bouncing back from being in a tough spot with injuries early on. He clearly wasn't the same player with the hip stuff. His coach didn't want him there. There was stuff in the news every other week about the Dolphins trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, which, I was always against, and then, to really bouncing back and, shout out Mike McDaniel for definitely playing a part in that too. If we can get home field, yeah, that's definitely good point, Greg. Home field's definitely huge for the Dolphins. Definitely, they're one of the better home teams, not the greatest road teams. I think they're fine on the road when they get to play in a dome specifically. They're a very good dome team too. When is Mike McDaniel going to get you on the staff to run some tape? Mike, please. Mike, just make me your assistant and I'll, we could, Just talk ball all day. I love that. Biggest Brian Flores' biggest, yeah. I think, he just didn't want Tua from the beginning and kind of stuck with that, and it kind of was his downfall with the Dolphins. Get a little more open. Anything else? Yeah, apparently the top standout of O-line versus D-line 1-on-1s on Friday was outside linebacker Quinton Bell. That's very interesting. I want to see Quinton Bell in action because I feel like I haven't seen any film on him. Like, there's not much film on him. He's played in the league for a few years now. But there's like really no tape on him at all. I know he was mentioned as like the Max Crosby guy when they were like playing versus the Raiders. We saw that on Hard Knocks. He was playing in the Crosby role. I know he's a good athlete, but I'm excited to see him in the preseason because a lot of reports have been pretty positive about him. Also, there was some interest, like Kendall Fuller said it was impressive to go against Tua. It's a different feeling when one is out there, is what Anthony Walker Jr. said. And these were all quotes before, I think, before Tua got paid. Who knows if they knew or not, but yeah. Woo. But yeah. Fun news. Close this down. I mean, honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I was just like with the nature of how contracts usually work, that usually like players get paid more after the fact if they get paid second. I was kind of expecting Tua to get paid on like the same level or more than Trevor Lawrence. So him getting less, I think, is a pretty good thing, especially because as more time passes, more quarterbacks are going to pass him up with the year with like what they're making. And then like salary cap just keeps increasing so much. Yeah, happy Hughes got paid with fine IVC building. He'll work a deal with Tyreek and Javon. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. And Phillips as well. Because those are the guys next up. What is this saying to me? Oh god, flashbang. I'm getting flashbanged. Okay. Telling me nothing. Okay. Something's popping up on my screen for YouTube. But we're good. But yeah, I was thinking of not going live, but then I was like just reading between the lines, and I was like, okay, I think Tua might get paid today from everything I'm seeing, and they had a good practice. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna prepare the live stream, and then once I prepared it, Tua got paid a little bit later, so I'm like, well, let's just go live. And then I'll have a film breakdown tomorrow, and then probably go live again on Sunday to talk about Sunday's practice, because I think Sunday will be open to the public. Couldn't think of that word for some reason. So we'll get to see like more videos, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I want to see this bomb that Tua had to Tyreek. Yeah, same. Like apparently Craycraft had 2 bomb big plays, so I want to see all the long touchdowns. Give them all to me. I don't think Miami Dolphins Twitter has posted it yet, right? At least I haven't seen it. Yeah, I don't think it's been posted yet. Anthony Walker wore the orange jersey today. I've only heard positives about Walker. I want to do another film breakdown on Walker again because I feel like that was the first free agent they signed, and I haven't got a real chance to dig into it. And I think Walker's going to play a bigger role than I even imagined, especially after Brooks signing, because I could see him splitting some decent amount of playing time with Long. Even though I think Long is very good, I just think Walker gives you more in coverage. So, and he seems to fit pretty well within this scheme. Who gets done first, Hill or Holland? Ooh, that's tough. Because both are like kind of different. Because I don't know what. I'm just trying to think of what Tyreek's will be. Will his actually be like a extension? Like what kind of extension would it then be? Because he still has a lot of years left on his contract. Or is he just going to get like a restructure, get a slight pay raise, or maybe it gets converted to like signing bonus, something like that. So it could be pretty simple maybe. But then Holland is like, you have to rework like a whole contract. And I imagine the Holland one just feels like it could take a while because I feel like Holland's gonna want to get paid. And then Phillips, who knows? I'm imagining Phillips probably wants to wait, coming off the injury too. That he probably wants to wait to get paid, but who knows? You think Josh Allen will fall off a bit without Diggs? I don't know if he'll fall off. I think Allen's kind of a QB that he creates a lot on his own. I do think, when you lose good receivers, it definitely hurts the offense as a whole, and it's definitely gonna hit like their ability to be productive. I don't know if it will necessarily make him individually worse, but I think it will hurt their team. Plus, they don't have a ton of. I need to look at the roster, but I don't think they have a ton of field stretchers anymore either. Like they lost their number one and they lost Davis. But I don't know who their like field stretchers are. I know they have like a lot of guys who can work the slot, and then Coleman they added, who's like a bigger X type, but isn't really like a vertical stretcher. I think that will just hurt their offense over as a whole. Like to me, I'm not going to look at like Allen as less. I think just from Diggs leaving, but I think it would just hurt the whole team. What's our biggest position to need on both sides of the ball, in your opinion? I would say guard on offense for sure. Then defense. I mean, this question probably. I mean, honestly, I could have answered. I feel like throughout this offseason, I could answer this question differently at all different points until they started picking people up. It's probably just interior on both sides of the ball, realistically. Because I don't feel like they have any major weaknesses at a lot of spots. They have some injury problems. I feel like they drastically improved in a lot of areas. But yeah, probably just interior O-line, interior D-line. Probably it's kind of a boring answer, but I feel like that's probably what most answers would be. I might have said safety before picking up like a Marcus May, because I feel like they needed a third one. But adding May and Poyer is not bad. I do think they could still potentially upgrade at that spot. But the secondary overall is pretty good. Edge, they have a lot of talent, just some injuries there right now. Off ball could, I guess, be upgraded, but I feel better about it than I did last year. Bills finishing last. I doubt it. I still think the Patriots finish last. I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't, honestly. I still feel like the Bills will be good. I still feel, to me, like I feel like a lot of like this sites are pushing the Jets up. I still think that Bills will be the biggest threat for the Dolphins. At least specifically like matchup wise. The Bills have always given the Dolphins troubles, and the Dolphins have always had at least with Tua, the Dolphins have always had a pretty easy time with the Jets and the Patriots. Yeah, that's a good point, Garrett. That's why I'm like not super keen on the Holland stuff getting done, is because I do think like that Antoine Winfield contract changes a lot because he got paid pretty high for a safety. And I think Holland's going to want some, like, that's just the nature of how the contract extension works. If you're a player you don't even have to be the best at your position, but you're near the top-ish, you're like in that conversation of like top 10, top 5 at your position, you're going to want top of the end money because of how just the nature of the business works with how salary caps increase. Like people get overpaid in free agency every year. Even the players that aren't even top at the position, sometimes they still get crazy top of the line money. That Winfield contract definitely stays up, and yeah, it's not in safety isn't a premium position, and I wonder how they're going to value it. They could value it more now though with this new defense. I think clearly Kyle Hamilton was so important to this Weaver style defense last year, what Baltimore ran, that maybe they'll value Holland more. I think this year will show a lot of things and see if Holland can be that type of player. But yeah. A little bit of extension. Yeah, Micah? Are you talking about Minka Fitzpatrick? I'm imagining. But yeah. I still, my guess is Holland still sticks around. If you look at the team afterwards, because there's a reason Wilkins, I've talked about this a couple times, but there's a reason Wilkins and Robert Hunt had to be let go because of what they were going to get in free agency, is because you had to extend guys like Tua, Waddle, and you need to extend guys like Phillips and Holland. So you always have to look at the guys after. But since the Dolphins really haven't drafted in the first, second round, they don't have a lot of like that super young talent that's coming up to be contract extension guys after Holland and Phillips. Like if you look at it. So like they're probably looking like, oh, we can pay Holland and Phillips. And then because we haven't had to, draft a ton of talent in recent years. Really, the only guy who's hit so far is Achan, and that was just last year. So, and then this was the first year you had a first and second round pick in a while. And then in the future. So yeah, I think you could still get away paying those guys for sure. Dolphins gonna win the Super Bowl next year. Who agrees? I hope so, Dolphins fan. I hope so. I really do. But yeah, really talked about everything that I wanted to. You guys have any more questions? Yeah. Just reading Twitter. Trying to see if there's anything else that's been said. I'm trying to see if there's people complaining about the deal, which I'm sure there is, but I've only seen mainly Dolphins fans' takes on it so far. I haven't seen, the other fan bases, which they'll have their opinions. Yeah, I think this is a good point from the spot track people. The practical guarantee on Tua's extension comes across the next 3 seasons. So basically it gives the Dolphins a reasonable out timeline, 3 years, if that's like the case. But it also gives Tua a very reasonable chance to cash in again before he turns 30, because by the time, that 3 years rolls around, he'll be like 29. So it's like a fair risk for both sides. And realistically, you weren't probably in the next 3 years, you weren't going to find. There's really, if you look in the at the talent at that position, you realistically probably weren't going to find an upgrade in the next 3 years, especially with how good your team is. So this just feels like the right move to me across the board. Plus, obviously, I think he's a good player. Thanks for all the great content. Best video analysis on YouTube, in my opinion. My channel really shire. I really appreciate that, Mitchell. Really do. I hope I do get hired by the Dolphins. That'd be amazing. But yeah, so yeah. Tomorrow I'll probably do a film breakdown. Not sure on who yet. I have a few different players. There'll probably be like a lower end roster player, someone that maybe is getting some attention at camp right now. That could potentially see more playing time, or someone that's maybe not the higher end players, because everyone already knows about them enough. But we're getting closer to preseason, and that's when we'll get to really dig into some actual football that's new stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.